So all the tables were also put out, with a very nice dinner served at the table to all these invited guests and patrons. And during the course of the fundraising, there was a very positive response. So within about 2 hours of the program, we had raised £800,000. We were £200,000 short. And there was an Irish businessman who imported Indian clothing, had been invited by one of his business friends who happened to be a patron member of the manor. And he had been once before to the manor, and he had taken part in arti and also the lecture, but this is the first time he'd actually attended a special patrons evening with a special dinner put on, and the whole fundraising program in full swing. So it was apparent that we weren't going to raise more than £800,000 that evening, and it was like one final attempt to reach the target of 1 million. So there was an outstanding £200,000 donation coming from we didn't know where. And this Irishman, Michael, was so impressed with the Prabhupada's dream, what he wanted. I mean, it's kind of connected with what Prabhupada wanted to begin with anyway, to have 150 acres of land and to do the cow protection, have 150 cows, and he really appreciated that. That was what Prabhupada had really desired. So on his second visit to the manor, he pledged £200,000. He pledged more than any other patron member who'd been along to, several, maybe at least 5 or 6, maybe 10 visits to the manor, maybe more than that. Usually they would come once every 3 months and do like a special dinner for these patrons, because each patron already was pledging £1,008 per year. And we have now over 400 patron members who pledge £1,008 per family. So that was a substantial amount of money for a person of non-Indian origin, but it was an Irish businessman, and very auspicious. It was a very auspicious evening. So George agreed to come, and we had no idea if his wife was going to come, because both were invited, but Olivia never would attend any kind of public function like that. Firstly, because she wasn't really a great fan of the Hare Krishna devotees. She was following somebody else. And she always just kind of left it up to her husband to go along to these things. But she came. I went to the car park at the manor to welcome him with a Gujarati devotee called Srila Dharma. He's a Shivaram Swami disciple. And they were very enthusiastic. They had come prepared. They brought welly boots with them, these rubber boots, because they wanted to walk through all the fields and see where the new approach road was going to be built. And so we did that. We walked, the whole length from the very beginning where the main gate was going to be, right to the manor property, which is about a half a mile. And we were stopping and talking, and he was checking out the fields and so on, and, well, how far does the property extend on this side of the road? How far the other side of the road? Are you going to have any kind of hedges or trees so that the road doesn't, doesn't look ugly, doesn't spoil the overall, beauty of the farmland. And so we got into, a lot of details. And when we were coming back towards the building, George, kind of volunteered. He said, it'd be great if you really want to have a successful business. One thing I can suggest is you start a garden center. Now, in England, garden centers are usually very successful, where families will come and they'll buy. Maybe they've just moved into their new home, and they want to have different trees and shrubs and whatever put in their gardens. So garden centers are incredibly successful. So he said, if you want to do that, and it's not going to, I don't think you need planning permission for this. I mean, he put a lot of careful thought into why he was coming up with this idea. And also, of course, like I said, he always identified himself as being a gardener. He was a gardener first and a musician second, So, and he would say, I'll help you set it up and, whatever, So we were really happy that he was kind of so open-minded to what we were doing. And so then we took him to the temple, and he came in front of our, we've got two altars there. There's Radha Gokulananda's altar, the Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, and little Gornitai in between the two altars. And he paid his full dandavats to the deities there, and he took Charnamrita, and so did Olivia. Olivia didn't pay full dandavat, she pranammed, she didn't get down, and, she wasn't as surrendered as George, George would always do that in front of Prabhupada. He'd love to pay full dandavats out of respect to Srila Prabhupada. But she was quite respectful. And we went into the room where we were going to have the dinner. And we'd arranged the tables in such a way that the head table, there was going to be Shamsundar, and also Mukunda were there too, along with Shriram Swami, Krishnadas Swami, and my wife and myself, and Akandidi and his wife. Akandidi was the temple president in '97. And he had actually, it was a long, hard-fought campaign. It started in 1982, and it ran for 15 years. And in '94, we had this amazing thing happened, that because we're always in the public eye, we're always in the news, media, television, newspapers, the radio. There was always news reporters coming and interviewing the devotees, because it was basically a freedom of religion case. That the local council, district council, wanted to close down our operation. They didn't want to have it as a public place of worship, because it wasn't planned as such. It was actually planned as a nurses' training college. It was actually one time owned by St. Bartholomew's Hospital, which is a very, very old hospital, which is in the city of London. And this Mrs. Ruffles, who had mentioned, had bought it from St. Bart's, and then she ran out of money. She wanted to turn it into a nursing home, but she couldn't, carry the financial burden, and that's why she sold it on. And then, of course, we moved in, and all of a sudden there was all these, festivals going on, and thousands of visitors, and all their cars were, in the village, and so we wanted to take the strain off the village, and we didn't like the villagers were always irate with our festivals and functions and sound and so on. So, in '97, this is like the last year of the Conservative government, and he was a cabinet minister, John Selwyn Gummer. He was the Minister of the Environment. He announced publicly on television that they had come to this agreement, that they would give us the planning permission to keep the manor open to the public. And he'd agreed that it could be given the planning permission to be a public place of worship. Because up until 1997, we never had anything like that either given to us by the government or by the district council. No recognition like that. So that was a great victory. So we had this, this victory dinner, and everybody who had been involved in the campaign, right from the very beginning, and had joined later on, were all there. They were all, VIP guests, including some MPs, and legal people, and newspaper people, and so on. And so, of course, George had given the manor. And what a candidate did was, he was praising everybody in the room, and there was like over 200 people, and it was a nice dinner, actually. My wife had Balagopal, she cooked the feast for that. And so everyone was being honored by Akandari. He was mentioning this person and this person and this person, going through all the different guests that were present. And then finally he came to George and he said, of course, really we have to thank George because, this would never have happened if he hadn't agreed to donate this property. And so before he spoke, and he wasn't actually really expected to speak. He was like an honored guest as well, but he wasn't expected to say anything.